Imagine having everything: money, fame, and the glamorous lifestyle of Los Angeles. But beneath the glitter lies a darkness so twisted, it could make even Hollywood shiver. This is the story of Dino Guglielmelli, the millionaire businessman who thought he could erase his problems with murder. But what he didn't know was that his plan to get rid of his wife would spiral into one of the most shocking and humiliating downfalls in Los Angeles crime history. On October 1, 2013, inside a small restaurant in LA, Dino sat across from a man he believed to be a hitman. His heart raced as he leaned forward, lowering his voice so no one could hear. He was in the middle of a bitter divorce with his wife, Monica, and all he could think about was ending it once and for all. Not with lawyers, not with settlements, but with murder. He looked the so-called hitman in the eyes and said words that would change his life forever. "I want her gone." But before we get into this jaw-dropping moment, let's rewind. Dino wasn't just some average guy. He was a millionaire, the founder of a nutritional supplement empire called Creation's Garden, a man who lived in a mansion, drove luxury cars, and mingled with the elite of Los Angeles. To outsiders, he had it all, but inside his home, things were falling apart. His marriage to Monica had turned toxic. There were endless fights, accusations, financial stress, and the looming divorce that threatened to strip Dino of both his fortune and his pride. For a man used to winning, this was unbearable. Dino wasn't just losing his marriage, he felt like he was losing his identity, his empire, his control, and instead of dealing with it through the courts like everyone else, Dino made a choice that would ruin him forever. He decided the only way out was murder. Now here's the twist. The hitman he met for lunch that day wasn't a hitman at all. He was an informant working with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Dino had been set up, and every single word he said was being recorded. Imagine sitting in a restaurant, calmly sipping coffee, while secretly recording a millionaire laying out his plan to kill his wife. Dino believed he was being clever, explaining details about how he wanted it done, how he would pay, and how life would finally be easier once Monica was gone. He didn't realize every detail was going straight into the hands of law enforcement. The recordings were chilling. At one point, Dino said that he wanted his wife taken out because the divorce was costing him too much. He believed that killing Monica would save him millions. He wasn't thinking about love, or family, or even morality. For Dino, it was pure math. To him, murder seemed cheaper than divorce. But here's the part that makes this case almost unbelievable. Dino wasn't some hardened criminal or mafia boss. He was a businessman, a man who built his wealth selling vitamins and supplements. He didn't grow up in the underworld. He wasn't used to this kind of thing, which is exactly why his plan was so sloppy. He didn't even bother to check if the so-called hitman was legitimate. He just trusted him. It was the kind of arrogance only a millionaire could have. By the end of that meeting, law enforcement had more than enough evidence. The words, the intent, the offer, it was all there. And when Dino walked out of that restaurant, he had no idea he had just destroyed his life. Hours later, he was arrested. The Los Angeles millionaire who once lived in luxury was suddenly in handcuffs, facing charges of attempted murder and solicitation of murder. The media exploded. Headlines screamed about the millionaire husband who tried to have his wife killed. People couldn't believe it. How could someone with so much risk it all in such a stupid and reckless way? Overnight, Dino went from successful entrepreneur to the face of one of LA's dumbest and darkest murder-for-hire cases. And the details only made it worse. When the case went to court, prosecutors played the recordings of Dino's meeting. The jury heard his calm, cold words, describing how he wanted his wife killed. They heard him talk about money as if it were more valuable than human life. The prosecution painted Dino as greedy, selfish, and dangerous, a man willing to trade blood for dollars. Dino's defense tried to spin the story. They claimed he never really wanted to go through with it, that maybe he was just venting or caught up in anger. But the recordings told a different story. They didn't sound like the words of a man venting. They sounded like the words of a man planning a murder. As the trial unfolded, Monica herself took the stand. She described the fear she felt, knowing her husband, the man she once trusted, wanted her dead. The courtroom was silent as she spoke, her voice trembling. For Monica, this wasn't just about money or betrayal. This was survival. She had lived with Dino, loved him, built a life with him, and now she was sitting just feet away from him, listening to the details of how he had planned her death. The jury didn't take long. In 2014, Dino pleaded no contest to attempted murder. He was sentenced to 9 years in state prison. The millionaire who once dined in fine restaurants, who mingled with celebrities, who built a business empire, was now inmate number 5,303,828, 9 years behind bars. all because he thought murder was cheaper than divorce. But here's what makes the story unforgettable. Dino thought he was being clever, that he had found a way to outsmart the system. Instead, he became the system's example. His case is now studied as one of the most ridiculous, arrogant, and sloppy murder-for-hire attempts in California's history. It's the kind of crime that makes you shake your head and wonder, what was he thinking? And maybe that's the lesson. No matter how much money you have, no matter how powerful you feel, you can't buy your way out of consequences. Dino thought his wealth would protect him, but in the end, it was his wealth, his arrogance, and his desperation that destroyed him. Today, Dino Guglielmelli is a free man again, having served his sentence, but he will forever carry the label of the millionaire who tried to hire a hitman and failed. His empire crumbled, his reputation was shattered, and his story remains a cautionary tale of greed, pride, and stupidity. So the next time you hear about someone rich and powerful, remember this story, because beneath the fancy suits, the luxury cars, and the big houses, there might just be a darkness waiting to explode. And in Dino's case, that darkness nearly cost a woman her life, but instead, it only cost him everything. This is not just a story of a crime, it's the story of a man who thought he was untouchable, and in the end, he learned the hard way that even millionaires can fall.